Right now on ABC 10 News at 4 o'clock, the county approves a plan to spend $650 million on pandemic relief. We'll break down where the money is going. And while COVID recedes in the U.S., other countries still struggle with surging cases. How those cases are spurring migrants to the U.S. border and what local groups are doing to help. Plus, a local couple is behind several murals around town featuring Padres players, the role the pandemic played in their creation.
ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
About 90 minutes ago, California's Health and Human Services Secretary announced an update to the state's mask policy as the state prepares to reopen next week. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kimberly Hunt. And while people who are vaccinated will be able to go maskless at the grocery store, a bar, or a gym, unvaccinated Californians will still need to mask up. But there are some places that will require masks, regardless of whether someone has been vaccinated. The most noticeable update from this afternoon is that teachers and students at K through 12 schools and child care facilities will still need masks. It is sticking with Cal OSHA's guidelines requiring them in indoor workplaces. You'll also still need to wear a mask on any form of public transportation. That includes airports and planes. The list goes on to include places such as prisons and even Disneyland. The County Board of Supervisors has approved a plan to divvy up about $650 million in federal funding to help the county recover from the pandemic. As ABC's 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala spent the day looking deeper into how that money will be spent, specifically on hazard pay for county essential workers.
After an hours-long meeting Tuesday, the County Board of Supervisors approved a plan on how to spend the nearly $650 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. About half of the money will go to covering costs related to the pandemic and COVID-19 response, as well as any future expenses. The rest is spread through different programs and services to help those facing homelessness, small businesses and nonprofits, mental health services, and much more. And about $36 million will go to hazard pay to county essential employees who work throughout the pandemic.
These workers still had to continue to go in. There were workers that were in hospital settings, medical workers who worked in the jails. There were medical workers that worked at the psych hospital, social workers that had to make house visits.
David Garcias is the president of SEIU Local 221, the union representing county workers. He says many risked their lives working in person throughout the pandemic. They even rallied virtually last year calling for extra PPE and hazard pay. During public comment at the board's meeting, a county adult protective services specialist spoke of the risks coworkers endured during home visits, not knowing if people were COVID positive.
We weren't compensated for the extra risk, for the stress. We know that there have been tragic outcomes for some, including among our fellow county workers. And I think we should have been paid at the time. Now there's the opportunity to make us whole.
But there was a bit of pushback on the item.
I just can't in good conscience give COVID bonuses to those who never missed a paycheck, have a guaranteed outcome with their retirement, and have the best health care.
In the end, the funding was approved. We're told discussions are still underway about how and when the money will be allocated.
Those folks that stayed there and did the job, and we need to honor them for all the hard work they did to make sure people were taken care of.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Coming up in the next half hour, we'll sit down with County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher about the funding set aside for small businesses. And we have some breaking news now. We are monitoring. Camp Pendleton Fire is working to contain a 1,000-acre fire on base. It is forcing mandatory evacuations in areas on the base that include the Lake O'Neill Campground and Wounded Warrior Battalion. This is a look right now at the smoke from an SDG&E camera. We are continuing to monitor this situation. We'll update you throughout this newscast. A Marine Corps general has been relieved of his duties after last summer's deadly training accident off San Clemente. 8 Marines and a sailor died when their amphibious assault vehicle sank at the end of July. The Marine Corps says Major General Robert Castavelli was relieved because he failed to properly train and evaluate the platoon before the accident. The Marine Corps previously suspended Castavelli in April from his duties as Inspector General.
The current eviction moratorium is set to expire at the end of this month. The CDC says it's in discussions about the order and what comes next. But low-income housing advocates are worried the nearly $50 billion in aid Congress has approved for landlords and tenants may not reach them in time. They believe the money will be enough, though, but some states are doing a better job distributing the money than others. The latest Census Pulse survey shows millions are still behind on their rent.
That's about 15 million people who are at heightened risk of losing their homes when the eviction moratorium expires. That's almost twice as many families that lost their homes during the foreclosure crisis.
Diane Yentl is with the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. Research from that group finds less than a quarter of the more than 380 agencies distributing the federal money allow direct payment to tenants.
All programs can give those tenants the money directly if their landlord refused to participate. And then the tenant can use those funds to pay the rent. And if the program is not using that, isn't doing that, they should really push them to do so. They should call their member of Congress or their local policy members as well.
She says another issue is some state agencies requiring burdensome documentation. The coalition found only 160 agencies allow tenants to claim they're eligible when they're not able to provide documents like an apartment lease or when they have trouble verifying income like Social Security payments. If you need help getting rental assistance, calling 211 is a good place to start. You can also find the rental assistance programs in your area at nlihc.org/rental-assistance.
Coronado police say they're stepping up patrols in their neighborhoods after two suspicious incidents involving strangers approaching teenagers. ABC 10 News reporter Marie Cornell spoke to the mother of one of those teenagers and has details on who police are looking for.
Coronado police are asking the public to be aware of their surroundings after receiving two reports about men approaching teens. I spoke with the mother of one of those teens. She says her son was not harmed, but she wants the community to be aware of this situation. Police say over the weekend, a 16-year-old girl was walking a dog in the 400 block of D Avenue when she was approached by a man who grabbed her by the arm. They say she screamed and managed to break free and run home. Police say this Ring video snapshot shows what the man looks like. It was taken from a neighbor's house. And then Tuesday afternoon, police say a 14-year-old boy who was walking home from school was stopped by a man driving a black SUV near the 300 block of H&I Avenues. They say the man asked the teen if he needed a ride to the base, and when the teen said no, the driver took off. At this point, investigators don't believe these two incidents are connected, but they are asking people with information about either to come forward. Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
Soon, older Americans on Medicaid will no longer need to leave their homes for a COVID vaccine. That's thanks to new incentive. This story starts the news feed. Medicare and Medicaid will now pay providers an extra $35 per dose whenever a beneficiary administers a COVID vaccine in his or her home. This could impact as many as 1.6 million Medicare customers. With the number of air passengers expected to rise this month, the TSA is now worried about worker shortages. It's asking its office workers to volunteer at the checkpoints. That's according to the Washington Post. The TSA is offering $500 monthly bonuses to screening officers at understaffed airports. It's also promoting part-time workers to full-time. And some airlines are updating their safety standards because of heavier passengers. The airlines say the weight estimates for both passengers and bags are going up between 5 and 10%. This could mean bumping passengers to another flight and even fewer bags allowed on the plane.